Welcome, Night Owls, to the Book Club After Dark podcast, an inviting moonlit podcast. I'm your host, Danny.
And I'm Michelle. We break down fantasy, romantasy, and thriller novels.
All things enchanting, intriguing, suspenseful, and maybe a little spicy.
Each episode features intimate discussions on captivating stories, character breakdowns, fan theories, and more. And this is your content warning. This podcast contains mature themes and discussions that may not be suitable for all audiences. Episodes include explicit language and descriptions of mature romance, as well as depictions of violence and other intense subject matter. This podcast is rated R for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
And going forward from here, there will be lots of spoilers for the coverage tonight of Home is Where the Bodies Are. This is your spoiler warning.
So let's get cozy because the best stories are told after dark.
So tonight's drink of the episode is called Family Skeletons, and it is essentially a whiskey sour. And the reason I went with this one, if you're looking at the screen, it's a little bit, has some froth at the top, and it has a dehydrated lemon on the top. And I went with a whiskey sour for a couple reasons. The first, the symbolic nature of a sour drink, given that we have some family trauma going on in this book.
Sour feelings about the family.
Some feelings, yes. And then also because whiskey plays a prominent role a couple different times throughout the book. There's a pretentious nature to one of our characters regarding drinking a certain kind of whiskey over another. One of our characters likes a very disturbing straight up Seagram's, which is horrible tasting if you've ever had, not tasty at all. But anyway, this is a elevated version of a straight up whiskey drink, and it's a whiskey sour. And I thought Family Skeletons kind of works for the theme and works for this book.
You know, in the book, when she mentions Seagram's whiskey, I only know Seagram's as like the fruity tropical drinks in the pretty bottles with all the pretty colors. I'm like, whiskey? I didn't know that was a thing. But yeah, apparently not too good. Not like the tropical bottles.
No, not those. There's a couple different versions of that, but no, in this case, I think she's just talking about like the straight up stuff. And it's like, sounds like you could like peel paint, like
it's
not
cheap and gets
not
the job
tasty,
done.
like burns the direct. Correct. Yes, absolutely. So let's immerse ourselves now for the first time into the Grove, which is where our story takes place. In this episode, we are going to be exploring the new title, Home is Where the Bodies Are, which is our thriller. I'm so excited to be doing another thriller. This is Home is Where the Bodies Are by Jeneva Rose. So whether you're reading along with us here or just here for the book talk, either way, we are always glad that you're here.
Let's dive into the setting. This is real world, which what we love doing with thrillers is breaking it up with fantasy. So we have something real world tangible. And this is a small town in Wisconsin called The Grove with only 174 residents. You can probably find more people in an IKEA at one time than this town.
Literally.
The main plot occurs on the family house of these main characters. It's a 5-acre farm that last house on the left, which I believe that's even a horror movie called The Last House on the Left. So immediately when that's described, I was like, okay, this is where death happens. And it's off Eustis Street. The house is decorated in flowers since it reminded her mother of life. So beautiful, delicate, and short-lived, which is beautiful, poetic, and really sad. That's how we view life. It's short-lived. And the house is run down since their father hasn't taken care of it because the father has been missing for quite some time up until this point.
Yes, missing. Our characters are, and again, we're covering this episode a little bit differently. So if you haven't joined us for a thriller before, we do not deep dive each chapter. What we do is an overall synopsis and then break down each, like our setting, our characters, our plot, etc. So moving on, we're going to talk about our characters now. So we have Beth, who is the mother's caretaker since her mother became ill with cancer. She has remained in Allen's Grove her entire life. She never left. And at this point has been watching over her sick mother for some time. She works at a warehouse. She took FMLA 7 weeks prior. If you're not from the US, FMLA is basically a form of leave it's a Family Medical Leave Act is what it actually, the acronym stands for. But it's basically you can use it for a couple different things. You can use it for family member that's injured. You can use it if you yourself are pregnant and have, give birth to your first child or however many children that you have, you can always use FMLA.
Only for the first.
But it's in place. Yeah. It's a specific type, and it's noted in the book, and this is why we brought it up, is that she specifically cites that she used FMLA to take these weeks to care for her mother. So she's 38 years old, and she's the oldest sibling of the three. She has a daughter who's estranged at this point. Her name is Marissa, and she has an ex-husband, and she kind of gave up on their marriage when her father disappeared. So Beth's not doing too hot.
No.
Right at the opening. She's really not doing too great.
You get a lot of this stuff in the opening is what I like. I mean, I feel like at first you don't really like Beth. And she's very stereotypical oldest daughter, caretaker, really just wants to protect like her family and her life, and then becomes super obsessed with the missing of her father, because that's like so out of character for her. She loves her father, she loves her family, and when that happens, she doesn't know what to do with herself. So
it's funny because I liked Beth.
Really? I don't know
I ended up
liking her.
Yeah, because I'm the firstborn myself.
Okay.
So
connection there.
Maybe that's why.
Well, I mean,
I just felt like she was the only one who was like, I'll stick around and be responsible because I guess no one else is going to do it.
Right.
You know, and she kind of felt like she got handed the short end of the stick. But we can get into that later.
Fair.
Let's talk about Michael. Tell us about Michael, Michelle.
Michael. So Michael left Allensgrove 7 years ago and moved to San Jose. He works as a tech engineer, like computer tech engineer, makes lots and lots of money in San Jose. He didn't want to come home, but he doesn't trust his sisters to handle the estate properly. He got out of Allensgrove and believed his sisters resent him for it, which is true and not true at the same time. When you see these like the story from these different characters' perspectives, yes, there's resentment, but also not so much. He's 36 years old, dark hair, kind of speckled gray, broad shoulders, tan skin from being in San Jose. He has a scar on his right cheek, which his sister comments on, and he's the baby. So he is the youngest of the three siblings and gives very much baby of the family.
He does.
He
really does.
He is the character that very much looks down on the Grow because he made it out. So he thinks he's better than everyone and has better quality of taste and just wants to be rid of
Which is interesting. I wonder too, because you and I are kind of from smaller-ish towns in Florida. And so I was wondering kind of your take, not this small.
No,
not even close to this small, but smaller-ish. And there's definitely a vibe of people that have gotten out of where I'm from versus those that didn't. I mean, to me, it doesn't make any difference, but I feel like there was always growing up this like, are you going to get out of here and go like do something or whatever? And those who stayed. Did you ever feel that?
Yeah, a lot. Because there's this feeling of when you grow up in a smaller town, you're not doing anything unless you get out of here. Like that's the dream, that's the goal. And if you don't make it out, you're just stuck. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I mean, both of us, we don't live in where we grew up. I think there's a quaintness to a small town that you can definitely embrace. It just honestly depends on who you are and what your lifestyle is, because small town charm is great. The thing about small town charm though, and when I lived in Georgia for a couple of years, I lived in a small town as well. That's not quite this small, but I would say a lot closer. There was like 100 kids in my graduating class, so a lot smaller. And there's definitely an animosity to outsiders. So I would say that's one like a big con here, that if you're an outsider, you will never fit in. Even if you've grown up your entire life there and you're an outsider, you just won't fit in just because people have a certain perspective of you. So I would say that is definitely a con of small towns, that you don't necessarily fit in all the time unless you meet the status quo.
Yeah, right. Or they know your whole family.
Right.
If it's just you, or you're a very small family, it's like, well, where's everyone else? There's kind of this, it should be generational. So then we have Nikki, who's the middle child, and in classic middle child form is kind of reckless. And in this case is a drug addict, very serious drug addict, has a semi-good relationship with Marissa, who, reminder, is our oldest sibling, Beth's daughter. She was at one time an aspiring writer. She has a vivid imagination. She kind of reads off page initially as an untrustworthy source. That was kind of how I took her. Just because typically when you have a character that has a history of substance abuse, oh, and let's mention that these chapters are multiple points of view. So when you're reading it, you have points of view from Beth, points of view from Michael, points of view from Nikki, and points of view from Laura, who's our next character, who is all of their mom. So Laura is the mother. She dies right at the beginning of cancer. She had a close relationship with her kids and family for a while, up until her husband's disappearance, Brian. So Brian is their father. So you have Brian and Laura, who have had 3 children, Nikki, Michael, and Beth. And Brian is missing, is stationed in the Navy. So again, reminder, Marissa is Beth's daughter. She's stationed in South Korea in the Navy. And then we also have Lucas, who is across the street, is Beth's childhood boyfriend and Emma's brother. Casey, who was Nicole, Beth's sister, right? Middle sister, childhood friend. And he's currently an officer of Allen's Grove. And then we have our victims in this, because of course we wouldn't have a thriller without our victims.
Yeah.
So we have, who's the 12-year-old little girl and neighbor, Christy Roberts, the neighbor that always wanted to play with Beth and hang out with her, and Charles Gallagher, the town loner, who was kind of just like you said, there's always a few people that are misunderstood in these small towns. Charles Gallagher is one of them, and he lives and takes care of his mother. But these are the 3 victims that we know of as we go through Home is Where the Bodies Are.
I felt bad for Charles the entire time, because in these types of books, the one you normally would be portrayed as a creep usually isn't. And he was just some sad guy that lived with his mother across the park and got blamed for something that wasn't his fault. And I felt bad for Charles the entire time.
Yeah.
Especially when we get a lore.
He was like wrong place, wrong time type of
His
situation.
house, wrong place, his own home.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
So let's go into the structure, because the structure is really important. It's first person point of view, like Danny said, of the characters Beth, Michael, and Nicole. And then we also, and that's in present day. So that's important, present day in the book.
Right.
And then we get Laura's point of view as kind of like journal entries. We get that because after Laura passes in the first chapter of the book, she has these journals and these videos that her kids are going through, and that's how we get her point of view. And this is in 1999, so quite some time in the past, and that's how we're getting her point of view, and that's where the victims come in.
The way with some of the references to music and stuff, I was like, was that really 1999? I was like, man, has it been that long? Holy cow.
And VHS tapes and how they're referencing. So she has this VHS recorder. That's how she is taking like all these home videos. And they're big. It's not your cell phone. It's massive. It sits on your shoulder, and you have to pop that out and re-record. So if you're not familiar with the concept of
VHS is not
technology, and they don't exist anymore.
Oh yeah.
You have to go to the library.
They don't. Yeah. Yeah, and you can't really understand. So, like, if you have the book, if you've never seen a VHS tape, which this might not be the show for you, just kidding. If you've never seen a VHS tape, they're not quite as big as the book. They are a little bit smaller than this, if I recall correctly. But the machine to play a VHS tape was gigantic.
Yes.
And then if you wanted to make if you were filming something, you had to put the whole VHS tape in there, and close it to film these things. So it wasn't like this is very heavy contraption. Google it. Anyway.
All right. So we also have the themes of this book. So we have family, obviously. We have 3 siblings are joined together after their mother passes. So family. How strong is a family? Do we always trust our family members? Then there's grief of passing away in a death, grief of past relationships that are different. Because let's be honest, if you leave a place for so long, you have memories, and then you return there, there's kind of a mourning of a loss of what could have been, maybe a loss of what once was. Now, trust.
And
Mhm.
maybe even grief over a life that you didn't have because of the choices you made.
Yeah.
I definitely got that vibe from Nicole and from Beth.
Mhm.
They had resentment towards their brother because he went off and, you know, had this great career and they didn't. And there was definitely some mourning of a life that they could have had. I felt that vibe from both of them.
Especially with Beth when her old boyfriend comes into the picture. There is a lot of grief
Yeah.
in that because they were childhood sweetheart or high school sweethearts and things just didn't work out in their
Mm-hmm.
favor. Then there's trust.
Right.
Do we trust everyone around us? Who do we trust? The people that we normally trust, are they trustworthy? Lots of questions on trust here, especially because we have unreliable narrators throughout this book, and we're kind of trying to figure out who's reliable, who's not. And then conditional versus unconditional love. I think this is a big one, especially from Laura's perspective. You know,
Oh,
do
yeah.
we love our children unconditionally, or do we?
And what does that mean?
Yeah, right.
At the end
Throughout
of the day,
everything.
what are you willing to do?
Mhm.
How far are you willing to go? And when you have multiple children, does that change? And what are you willing to do then? And as I think, had I read this book in my early 20s versus now, I think my takeaways would be different.
Oh, absolutely. Like as a
Because
mom
now
reading this book.
now I'm a parent.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a parent now. So, and a spouse myself. So when Laura is talking about meeting with Brian, her husband, I'm putting myself in Laura's shoes.
Mhm.
The whole time I'm the mom, I'm Laura, which for me is like, I felt most at home in Laura's character versus the kids. Every time it would relate back to her, I could see myself through her eyes more than anyone else's.
I would agree. Even though Beth is a mother, I never, when going through her perspective, I never really placed myself in her shoes. It would be more of Laura's
Yeah, I didn't
perspective.
identify.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So let's get into
And
the
it could be too because Laura's perspective is of her kids younger,
Mhm.
and maybe that's like the phase I'm at in motherhood. But I also just like couldn't identify with being so strained from my own child the way that Beth
He
is.
literally
I had a
got
hard
deployed
time.
to South Korea from Wisconsin, the farthest place she could go. Yeah, I don't associate with that so well, but you know, we have young ones who still depend on us to wipe their butts. So
This is fair. This is fair. So easy for us to judge, I
yeah,
guess, right?
right.
You never know. Life could throw you something and you could think you're going to handle it one way and then you have no idea how you really would
Mhm.
when the instance actually happens.
Right.
That's fair.
So Danny, do you want to lead us into the plot?
Sure. So let's talk about the introduction to conflict. Our story begins from Beth's perspective. I'm like having a tongue twister with that. I think it's the T with the S's. I'll be fine. So she's in her childhood home and it opens with her mother basically on her deathbed. The situation is that Beth has moved her mother into like the front living room area where she can like see the sun. She's moved her out of her bedroom now. She's in hospice. Beth has a hospice nurse that's coming in intermittently to kind of check on her mom. But for the most part, it's just her and her mom. And she knows that it's very close to her passing. So as she's taking care of her, she talks about how her brother is on his way. Sister is somewhere strung out. She thinks. And then she kind of watches the sunset with her mom as she has her last dying breaths. And then there's this critical moment where you already know that you kind of starts you off on this thriller path of her mom having her last words, which are that her father did not disappear and don't trust. And of course she passes away.
Of course.
So we don't find out who don't trust is, or if it's a person, if it's a thing, we don't know.
Mhm.
There's no anything else because she just passes. And it's like, there's the way I was irritated. And then I was like, what secret could be so serious that she literally cannot say it until
Her last dying breath.
she's gone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, when
Mhm.
she passed, I was like, come on. I understand the author had to set it up to get all
Yeah.
these characters together and to solve this mystery. And this is a secret that Beth kind of holds to herself for a good portion of
Mhm.
the book because she's the only one that's
Oh,
been
wow.
there. And she honestly kind of feels like she's just entitled to it because she's the one that's been there. She's the one that took off work. She's the one that's been obsessed over her father's disappearance. She's the one that stayed in the area, not strung out on drugs. So if you haven't been around an addict, they're pretty absent and flighty for the most part, as you can kind of see with Nicole and her reactions. It's a lot for Beth to have to handle Nicole and her mother dying, and she is, basically gone no contact with Nicole up until this point. The story continues with each perspective of the siblings. Michael arrives in Alan's Grove once he receives a text from Beth that their mother was passing. So he got there just a little bit too late, and his perspective looks down on the small town. We've already talked about that immediately.
He's super pretentious.
Yeah, he has his like rental car, and he's already like, ugh, the house looked so much better 7 years ago when dad was here. No one's painted, no one's like pressure washed. It looks terrible. It's like, okay, my guy, you've been living up in San Jose. You haven't come down to help. You can't look down on this. Whatever. And Beth recalls their dad disappearing with a note. Laura, I'm sorry, love, Brian. So his truck was seen 7 miles from the south of their home, and again on this whole road crossing into Illinois, then disappeared. So Beth is kind of recalling because she has the don't trust, and immediately she's like, don't trust dad? Like what? Well, don't trust. He disappeared.
Right.
Who am I not trusting? And she's recalling the evidence for him just disappearing and his truck just kind of being left at the border of Texas ultimately. And the story is he had struggled with depression and refused help. This is what Laura told people, that they were actually having problems. He didn't want to get help. And the cops believed it was their mom at first who had, had something to do with the disappearance, because you always look to the spouse first. That's typically what happens.
Right.
But his truck was found abandoned in McAllen, Texas. So ultimately they're like, no, he just decided to abandon you guys, which honestly, as a child, that's hard to hear. But imagine as like an adult, you have this perspective of your parents that you've been cultivating. It seems like they were pretty positive parents throughout the majority of their childhood, at least from Beth's perspective. And then all of a sudden he just ups and dips. Like that's just jarring to her. And she can't
absolutely
really wrap her mind
especially
around it.
in this small of a town. Like what do you mean he just
left?
People
don't just leave.
And then the more you find out about Brian as it goes, like the less that seems plausible.
Right.
But there's still, it is and it isn't. We'll get into that more. So Michael comes into the family home and they don't like each other. There's already some ill will between Michael and Beth. Michael is, grieving their loss, and he says, let's share a glass of whiskey. So again, this is kind of notating our drink of the episode, the whiskey sour, but also kind of points to family skeletons again, because ironically, it's Michael here who wants to share the drink with Beth. They have a shared drink, and we're waiting at this point, because at this point someone has to come to kind of get
the body,
Laura. And so Kathy, this hospice nurse, comes to pick up their mom's body. Beth gets a call from the police that Nicole, her sister, was attacked and needs to be released by someone from the hospital due to the extent of her injuries. So Beth is just like, fucking great. My mom just passed away, and now my estranged, strung out sister needs help again. It's just like wonderful. And then my brother, who I don't get along with also, and who's arrogant and rude, is also here. So things are just going great.
Right. And this introduction of Nicole is just wild, because obviously you have Beth's perspective of Nicole, but then your first actual interaction with Nicole is her getting out from the hospital from being attacked. And this is not an abnormal occurrence for her.
No.
So she's definitely unreliable. At least she's supposed to be unreliable. Although when I got Michael's chapters, every time I'm like, shut up. Like, he was so annoying to me.
Oh yeah,
I hated his
But I think you're
chapters.
supposed to hate him.
Right.
Because he just is so... I would like read him and I'm just like, is this guy for real? Like, is this dude for real with these thoughts that he has?
Yeah.
But so the following day, Laura's attorney shows up with the will because all three children are now at the house. They all receive a personal note that Laura had requested not be opened until after her funeral. Beth ends up receiving mostly everything, including the house and a key to a lockbox. Nicole receives Laura's journals, which are mom's journals, and her station wagon. Nice. Michael receives all of Brian's things, minus 2 items that Beth and Nicole can choose, and Laura wished to be cremated and scattered across their property at sunset.
Which, okay, so did you, first reading like the will, did you think of anything in particular why these characters got these certain things, or were you just like, that's fine?
I tried to, but I felt like by the time this happened, it was so early on in the book that I didn't feel like I knew any of them well enough. And by the time it started to escalate, I kind of forgot about this.
The will, yeah.
Yeah. Like I remembered it was there and I like knew it as like a piece, but I didn't hold on to it. And I probably should have held on to it a little bit more. But I didn't really, I was like, okay, this is what they got. Nice. And I didn't think more about it. But then it was interesting after the fact of like, Laura, why did she want to be scattered at the home that she like died in? Like, why does she still want to be there? You know, like some of these things are definitely clues, and I didn't piece that part together at all.
Right. I thought it, obviously, with knowing the ending, it's so ironic that Michael receives Brian's things. Like that, there's the irony.
Oh,
there.
yeah.
It's like you live with his stuff now. This is yours because, you know.
Yep.
Yeah. And Beth, I thought it was also interesting that it seems like her mother wanted to trust Laura wanted to trust Nicole and have the best intentions. She thought she was gonna go places, and when we get her perspective, we see that she saw Nicole going down a dark path when she was just like 15 years old, and there was nothing that she could really do, no matter how much she intervened. But Beth is the one that ultimately gets is the one entrusted with the truth from her mom's perspective.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yep. And the gifts are symbolic, of course, but I definitely think that the way the book is structured, I didn't think that much about it after the fact.
Right.
I will say that.
Right.
Because it goes into so much more. There's so many things that happen that I kind of forgot about that as I was reading. Which gets to tensions rising, which is where we start that rise. So the plot continues to build, right? Siblings begin to clear out the attic and the house. They're dividing and organizing belongings based on their will, etc. Michael was scattering the attic for totes and boxes and things, and they start organizing the piles to try to lighten things up and to try to, like, of course, in true like eldest sibling fashion, Beth is like, how can I, you know, make this more enjoyable, or like get along with my siblings a little bit and try to like do something to lighten the mood. She's like, all right, let's look at these first different videos. So there were like 3 videos to choose from, and what they end up choosing is June 1999. So at first it's like this image of the 3 teenagers at the time, and then all of a sudden the video cuts, and this is where you kind of get the cover of the book and you're like, oh shit, this is where it's about to go down. And sure enough, there's a view at night, and Brian comes. The way I see this in my mind of like with them watching it on the TV and all of this, it like came to fruition for me, and I was like, man, this would be really cool as a movie. Brian is running and asking for help, and the 3 now adult siblings are watching this, and cuts to the camera. So the camera's still running.
He tells her to turn it off, and she's like, okay, I got it.
Tells her to turn it off, and she's like, okay, I got.
But she doesn't.
She didn't.
No,
she definitely didn't turn it off. It's still on, and it's like running to the side. So like, again, remember, these cameras at this time are gigantic. So if it's running to the side, she had to take it like off of her shoulder or have her positioning ones and like roll it down or do some kind of movement like this, because these are not small. And at the time that she does this, you see the dead child, Emma, which we don't know Emma Harper at this time, but that's who it is. And Laura being told by Brian to help get rid of the body, basically, and that Brian needs help. He doesn't in so many words say get rid of the body, but he's like talking about how he needs help. At this time, the siblings are like, what the fuck did we just watch, right? They're just like stunned. And all three of them are shocked for different reasons, we find out later. Two of them for the same reason, one not so much. Emma had been reported missing. So we find out later that Emma had been reported missing and was never found. This is like not just a revelation of
the siblings,
this murder happening, right? Or the siblings watching it. It's the small ass town, and all of them had lived with Emma missing, their family. And then coming to find out that, oh my God, my parents had something to do with this and we never knew. Like, I just can't even imagine that type of revelation of finding something like that out.
Well, and Emma wasn't just some random girl. Emma lived across the street. On their small street in this small town. She lived across the street. She was the sister of Beth's high school sweetheart, Lucas, as well. So she was very well involved in their family. So this isn't just some random girl.
They helped to try to find her.
Yeah. Immediately.
Like, they went on search parties to find her. To find Emma. Like, this is like a big deal.
And the siblings now knew why they never found her, because, you know, Beth's immediately like, parents had something to do with it. And they're determined to find the truth of her death. But Michael is very much like not wanting to find the truth. And I was suspicious of him from here, because he's like, all right, well, let's make the deal. If you don't find anything, then let's take the secret to the grave. Like, you don't want to know?
Why?
He was very not wanting to know the truth. So I was like, okay.
And then you kind of write it off because you're like, well, he's such a smug asshole that he doesn't want to stay here any longer than he has to. And he doesn't want to deal with this. He just wants to like be done with this and bury it so that he can go on to his new fancy life. And you kind of like write it off initially, but I was annoyed at him.
Then we have Lucas, who, like we just said, Beth's high school sweetheart. He appears and his mother has dementia. He's actually had moved away from the Grove as well. Him coming back is also new for Beth. And he's taking care of his mother because she has dementia. And dementia is essentially, if you don't know what that is, your brain starts deteriorating and memories aren't what they used to be. A lot of times people with dementia, they randomly go into the past and believe that they are somewhere in the past. And that plays a key role here. Living with people who have dementia are very difficult. Oftentimes they become aggressive because their brain isn't processing things the way it should. And I've had multiple family members with dementia, and it's really hard to watch. Their brain just becomes mush, and they don't know who they are. They don't know where they are. They don't know who you are. And it's really heartbreaking to see. And he asked if she'd like to go for a walk, similar to how they spent their time in high school. What we haven't talked about yet is how Beth used to be a track star in high school, and they would actually run together. They would run through the woods by her house. They would run all over town. And so obviously they're in their late 30s and they probably can't sprint anymore. Walking is kind of connecting them like they used to do in high school. And in the midst of this present, action that's happening, we get a flashback of Laura's perspective at Groovin in the Grove fundraiser. And this is Laura's dream. She put together this fundraiser, and we see a fun, family-filled afternoon. Laura gives details about the main characters before tragedy hit Allen Grove. Emma was a tenacious girl with vibrant energy. She literally was like, I'm gonna win every game. And if you haven't been to like one of these small town festivals, there's like egg toss, there's egg races where you like race with the egg in the is in the spoon, and then you hold in your mouth, and then you like try to run back and forth. There's balloon tosses, so a lot of fun games. And she won one, got a ribbon, and she was trying to win a lot of them. So you're peak of Emma as a person, not a victim. She's a really sweet girl, just a lot of energy. And then Beth was slow dancing with Lucas because they're dating. Michael had to run home to change out of his egg splattered clothes. He was in charge of one of the games, and he got egg splattered all over him, and he runs up to his mom saying that he needs to go home and change. And this isn't really uncommon in the 90s, where you just they're at this playground and the house is like down the street, but you just kind of send your kid off. I would never. If I'm at a playground,
not now,
I would never send my child go down the street. Like, I don't know where you are, but this is the 90s. So things are a little bit different here. And it's a small town.
Yes.
And then we have Nicole
with
her friends. And Laura comments that it's a mix of good and bad influences that she is seeing, and she's seeing Nicole as the dreamer, as the highly emotional one, kind of going down this path here with her friends. Then we also have Charles
Mm-hmm.
looming, smoking a cigarette, and he gave Beth a sinking feeling, which it's supposed to set you up to think that Charles is like the bad guy here, but he's just misunderstood
Right.
and just kind of an
Yeah,
outcast.
he is fully.
After this flashback, we go back into the present, and Beth and Lucas are walking down memory lane together. Beth learns of his divorce and how he never wanted kids due to the trauma their family faced, which is him losing his sister. And that was a lot for his family
Mm-hmm.
to process. And he also lost his dad shortly afterwards, which he comments it's by suicide. Beth reminisces on the life they could have had but never was because she was a track star and she was so obsessed with this scholarship to a university, finally get out of there, that she wasn't taking care of her body like she should have. She was skipping on meals, not eating so much, and she ended up getting very badly injured and losing her scholarship. So that was a lot for her to process, as well as Lucas losing his sister. So their lives just kind of shattered separately, and
Mm-hmm.
they ended up breaking
Yep.
things off. Beth asked Lucas if he wanted to know what happened to Emma for the sake of closure. However, he's like, she's dead. She's been missing for 23 years. There's no way that she's alive. And since his mother has dementia, her brain's stuck in the past, so he has to like relive the memories and kind of retell her like Emma's not around anymore. And that would be very heartbreaking to have to
Oh,
do
yeah.
on a very regular basis. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Nicole and Beth are starting to try to piece together what happened with Emma's death and are both kind of going through different things at this time. Nicole specifically is, like we said, a recovering addict. Right now, she's needing her daily methadone treatment. So basically, if you're unfamiliar with addiction, when you're going through withdrawals and after this period and you're trying to get clean, methadone is a way that can help keep you sober to a certain time is essentially what it's for. And you use it over a certain period of time, kind of wean off of that to finally, hopefully, be drug free at the end. But she has to have her doses of this throughout to try to keep her clean. And she continuously, especially now, is really struggling with not wanting to use again because now she's got the death of her mother. And now she finds out that maybe her parents were involved in a murder, like clearly.
right.
And it's just a lot. She's having a hard time with this.
It's also important to note that the last time she spoke to her mother told her not to come around until she got a chip. So when you are participating in a sort of rehabilitation, you get these chips or coins, not like edible chips, or coins that for a certain amount of time that you've been clean. So she wanted her to
Right.
be 30 days clean, and she
Mm-hmm.
was just like a day or two shy of that. So here she's like
Yeah. One day
devastated. She
shy.
never
Mm-hmm.
got to say goodbye to her mom because she wanted to prove to her that she's clean, and
Yeah.
she never got to show her that.
During her treatments, we are introduced to Casey Dunn, who we talked about a little bit earlier. He was a childhood friend of Nicole's. He works for Walworth County Sheriff's Office, and he actually helps Nicole obtain Emma Harper's cold case file. Nobody's looking at it anymore. It's been a cold case for years, and he kind of feels like no harm, no foul. Casey believes that Nicole is writing a book because this is what she has been good at historically, and she always wanted to do this. So he believes that's what he's kind of helping with while he gives her these files. He doesn't have any idea, obviously, that her family was seen on a tape with the body or anything like that. So there is another flashback where the Thomas family receives news of Emma's disappearance. And throughout this time, each member recounts how they last saw Emma. Laura has a feeling that Emma's not just out past curfew, and they just start to search the area for Emma, and there's a knowing feeling that she's never going to return to the Harpers. All the siblings are out, and the house actually ends up getting broken into. Everything is shuffled, turned upside down. The VHS tape is still on top of the TV, so nothing's there. And so there's this weird feeling like, do our parents owe somebody? Like, why is my house being broken into? And the way when I was reading this, I was like, is this meant for me to like, because I'm always trying to like solve these things the whole time I'm reading these books. I'm like, okay, who did it, right? And so I'm reading through this and I'm just like, okay, is this meant to derail me, or am I supposed to like really focus on the fact that their house was robbed? But it was odd that it wasn't really like robbed of anything. It was just like pilfered. Like somebody just like went through thing, sort of.
Right.
It didn't even seem, it was odd. The whole thing was odd.
I thought, so my hunch this entire time was it was weird that Lucas appears and then the house gets broken into. So I thought that was weird. And I thought he was connected to that. I ended up being very wrong on that. But this is where I was like, why is Lucas around? And then he's getting broken. This is broken into. Like, that's weird. I think there's a connection here, which maybe that's what the author wanted me to think. I think because Lucas does appear at a precarious time in the Thomas family, that he's supposed to seem suspicious. And he's kind of, because he has a lot going on, he's kind of not exactly the most warm person either. He is friendly with Beth, but
for sure.
he's definitely kind of standoffish as well, and a little short. Then after the break-in, Beth receives an email from their father. So this entire time that Beth's father's been missing, Brian, she's been emailing his email address, and hoping for a response. And now she's actually getting a response apologizing for his disappearance. And this shakes Beth and Nicole, because they're like, well, we have to find him. Michael, can't you track the IP address? And he's like, yeah, it's fine. I can do that. And he finds the location in the middle of nowhere.
Well, and we think that he replied to the email finally, because one of the emails Beth sent, because he's been messaging and she's been sending out these emails, is the email to let him know that their mother had died.
Right.
And that's the reason, like, this is the reason they think that he finally responds. Yeah.
That's exactly. And so this location, middle of nowhere, 2 hours away, Beth doesn't want to go because she doesn't want to get her hopes up, which is fair. She spent her entire life, or not entire life, her entire life, the last 7 years, trying to figure out where he is. And she just doesn't want to get her hopes up just because Michael said there's a chance, like, he could be using a VPN, he could be doing anything if this is actually him. So him and Nicole, Michael and Nicole, end up going on a mission while Beth stays home due to her fear of being let down. And while Beth is by herself, she watches another tape of Michael's birthday following the incident. And it's really interesting because Beth has a new lens in watching this video, and how Laura, during this video, she really just tracks everyone's faces, and she lingers on Michael, and she lingers on Brian a lot. And it's like she's trying to observe the family. And this tape is after Emma went missing.
Right.
And Michael gets this big computer, which is like more expensive than they could imagine. And, it was a big gift. And it kind of sparks where Beth and Nicole start feeling jealousy over how Michael is treated versus how they're treated, and how the parents kind of made sure he did something special with his life, as opposed to Beth and Nicole, who they felt like they did.
That he was like seemingly favored.
Which he was,
not
but
really
not
knowing
for
the truth. Yes.
Not for the reasons they thought.
They think.
Yeah. So
yes.
And then as she's watching the video, Lucas comes over again. So this is where I'm being like suspicious. Like, why does he keep popping up? And they go for a walk down by the creek on Beth's property. And at first she's like, I don't want to go down there, but she's not going to tell him that because she hasn't been down there, and that's where Emma died. So she talks about her dad's email, and their mom's funeral is going to be tomorrow, where they spread their ashes. And as they overlook the stream, they share a kiss. So kind of sparking their old
so a little
romance.
distraction,
a little bit
from our mission,
which
I'm like, ugh, whereas like in my, Quicksilver moments, or in, my alien barbarian books, I'm not skipping over that part. But in these books, I'm like, I'm on a mission here to find out this killer. I don't got time for any of this.
For any romance.
Do your kissy kiss face and then let's move on. We've got we've got crimes to solve. So that's like why I was like, all right, they kissed. It's nice for them. Moving on. And it's written well. It's not like it's like written poorly. I just like have no interest whatsoever. I'm like, I'm here for a different mission. Like, let's figure this out.
That's fair.
I've got a job to do. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, Michael and Nicole go to the location of this IP address, which is, a wild goose chase set up by Michael, of course. It turns out to be an abandoned house. So disappointment and is, all coming into Nicole, and she's just like in this massive spiral. And why would he send us here? This is abandoned house, blah, blah, blah. And the way that this house is described is like really spooky too. It's just like abandoned middle of nowhere. Yeah. And she like goes in and I'm like, girl,
why would you go in?
What are we doing?
Yeah. Why would
I don't know.
Yeah.
And they are driving back and Michael is driving her, of course, and Nicole is like, hey, can you swing me by my old place? I need to pick up a few things. So it's not Motel 6, it's Motel 5. And he's driving her to the Motel 5. And Michael is waiting in the car and he hears shouting. So Michael bursts into the room and sees the drug dealer choking Nicole and demanding money. Michael gets the drug dealer off Nicole, throws cash at him, and then tells him to never bother his sister again. And I briefly get like dark romance vibes here, which I don't know what this says about me, but I digress.
Too much choking. Too much hand necklaces for you.
I guess. And Michael takes them home. But before this happens, there's this like weird nod. I wanted to mention that he basically like chokes the shit out of this guy and like beats him up like beyond what he needed to do. And before, when he came in, there's this like, I guess you could call it a bouncer. I don't really know what he would be called, but he's like sitting outside the motel, like in a car or whatever, looking, and he like doesn't give Michael a nod of any kind. And then Michael notes from his point of view as he's driving away that the guy gives him like a head nod as he leaves, like a gesture of like, oh, look what you did. Like, I saw what you did there, bro, type of thing. And so I'm confused for a couple of reasons. I don't know if Jeneva Rose put that in there to kind of give Michael morally gray but redeemable vibes.
I think so.
Because that's what I took out of this.
I think so. Yeah. Because up until this point, you're like, he's a pretentious prick. Like, he just wants to get out of here. But here you see his humanity and how he cares about his sister, because he could have let his sister get the shit beaten out of her.
Right.
Because clearly that happens often. That's how we were first introduced to her. But he goes in and stands up for his family. He does throw money. It's just like, whatever, because that's what he does. And I read the person outside is just kind of someone who lives there that sees all the shit that happens. And if you go to any of these kind of sketchy places, there's always people hanging out outside. And
always.
It's unsettling. And that's how Michael perceives it at first, is unsettling. But when they are like, oh, this guy is, I saw it as they know that the drug dealer super sucks and he got the shit beaten out of him. So they appreciate that.
Yeah, and he deserved it. Yes,
so
exactly.
Yeah, I think Jeneva Rose was trying to tell us, like, or show us, hey, maybe don't think he's too bad to, like, get us off the trail.
Don't make it too obvious.
Yeah. Then afterwards, Michael takes him home and promises not to tell Beth, because he knows Beth is on edge with Nicole, and she's had her last straw with Nicole, because Nicole has tried to break into her house, has asked her for money, has like really gotten aggressive with her. So she has cut herself off from that aspect of her life. So he promises that. But first they need to stop at the clinic so Nicole can have a methadone treatment. Because what Nicole has been doing is she thinks she can get clean faster by skipping her methadone treatments and going like every other day. But really she needs to go consistently every day so she can get clean properly. And then when Michael and Nicole get home, Michael asks what Beth will do with the house. Beth wants to sell it for money because she's like, that's more money than I could ever imagine. And Michael's like, that's like 2 years salary for me. Like he really has a very poor concept of how they live. And that begins an argument to where Nicole should live and helping Nicole get on her feet, because Michael's painting this as like, what if Nicole stays here? So she's not living in a Motel 5 or out on the street. And she's like, why should I keep fucking helping Nicole? Which is fair.
Yeah.
And then Nicole interrupts their argument with,
But this paints Beth as like the shitty sibling.
right.
Michael as this like great guy who's now saved the day from, you know, the sister and seemingly wants to do this nice thing by giving his sister the house. And, you know, it's I'm helping her stay clean and
Right.
this is her childhood home and it's the right thing to do. There's this argument that's happening between the siblings. Nicole interrupts their argument with a clipping that she finds in mom's journal, Laura's journal, of the disappearance of Christy Roberts. And now Nicole is on one thinking that her parents are involved in this other girl who disappeared shortly after, 5 months or so after Emma disappeared. So now we flash back to a perspective of Laura where she thinks Brian had something to do with Christy's disappearance too. This is unsettling for Brian. She worries about health since getting the full ride, college scholarship, this whole thing. Their dinner is interrupted by Susan, which again is the neighbor across the street, Emma's mother. And she's telling them, oh, Charles Gallagher confessed to killing Emma. And remember, Charles Gallagher is the like strangest neighbor that lives next to the playground and harmless, but seemingly the easy scapegoat in this town. Time shifts back to the present. Beth, Nicole, and Michael are talking about Christy Roberts and that she was kind of a loner. And she took pictures all around Allen's Grove. And she showed pictures of Beth running. And Beth was like, I didn't know about her taking pictures of me while it was running, which is like strange again in a small town. But the way that I was immediately like, oh, Christy saw something and she had it on film and now she gone. So something happened there. And so I knew, of course, that Christy had seen the murderer in some shape or fashion. Right. There's too many disappearances that happened too close together. Nicole talks about Charles's confession, supposed confession, air quotes, how he initially said he was innocent, but then after 16 hours, which anyone after 16 hours of interrogation, he confesses, like, I am not a lawyer, but you should always ask for a lawyer.
And if you don't have one, lawyer, the state will provide one for you. I was like, why didn't
Correct. Why wasn't always ask for a lawyer.
Given representation.
Ask for a lawyer.
No matter how strong you are, 16 hours, these are professionals. Their entire job is to get people to say things. And since this is such a small town, they're like,
well, haven't you seen the first 48? They never they're like, oh, you don't need your lawyer, do you? You're going to tell me the truth. Oh, yeah, I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't need my lawyer. Wrong. You need your lawyer.
Yes, always.
First answer is always get a lawyer. Also, I'm not a lawyer or an attorney spokesperson, but get your lawyer. Just saying.
What's really sad is because he was like innocent at first, but they found very circumstantial evidence against him. And after 16 hours, he was like, oh, you know what? It probably was me. It's almost like, how do you twist your brain into, how do they twist your brain into thinking that?
Well, the circumstantial evidence was like a toy was left that was hers in his yard. But like, again, he lived across the street from a park and there was a bunch of other kids' toys there. It wasn't just his toy.
Right. And her footprints were in his yard, which kids cross through his yard all the time. And I believe he also had a jacket, which kids leave their jackets everywhere. Like his yard has toys all over it and he doesn't have children. Like there's just garbage and junk on it because kids just discard their stuff. But the case ended up being dropped because Laura planted Emma's bicycle by the woods so they could find it and clear Charles' name. Because she had immense guilt because this man was about to go to prison for something he didn't do and something that Laura and Brian had a hand in doing. Even though they didn't kill her, they know what happened to her. So then we're back in the present. The siblings go to the Boar's Nest bar in town. So this is like the only bar they have. And Michael offers to buy the house from Beth here, but she doesn't want him to have it since he's had a better life than her. So again, she's holding on to these things because she feels this resentment towards him. And then this is where Casey arrives at the bar and gives Nicole another file for Christy Roberts. And he did like a cross reference and he found a missing report for Charles Gallagher, which we didn't know he went missing. And that's because he's such a loner. It was like swept under the rug. It's like, oh, of course he would go missing. He was just he's the town pariah now, even more so than he was before. And
Oh, he was hated.
yeah, so
Yeah.
of course he just went missing.
Because they still believed he did it. It wasn't,
even though it was
they
the
just
Smith.
didn't have enough to hold him anymore for the murder, but the town all still thought he murdered her.
Right.
Because he had confessed. And so it was kind of like guilty by groupthink more than anything else.
And
I mean, honestly,
he was taking care of his poor mother too. So his mom's like worried about him because he went missing on December 28th. And so that's 6 months time between Emma's death and then Charles Gallagher's death, because it was June and now it's December. The night before, he walked to the boar's nest, but he never made it home. So his mother was very upset, but no one gave a shit about
nobody
him,
cared. Yeah. So because trial by public opinion was, oh, he's a murderer of Emma.
And
so
when you have
we don't care
174
that anything happened to him.
people, 174 people in the well, technically there's 174, 2 are missing, so 172 by this point, that there's not much you could really do. So
right.
Then, so the evening
Exactly.
of the funeral, which is the spreading of the ashes of their mother, the siblings walk across the yard to spread their mom's ashes at sunset. Lucas and his mom join in, but her dementia was causing to believe that they were still in 1999. She called Michael, his father's name, so Brian, and asked for Laura. And, Lucas is trying his best to like explain, like, this is why we're here. It's Laura's funeral. And, he was just, it was heartbreaking. It was hard for everyone involved, but Lucas ended up leaving pretty early because, the funeral. Lucas took her home and let the siblings spread her ashes in peace. And then we have the next day. I do appreciate the pacing of this, and because of it's a thriller, you do have to move pretty quickly to, one, build these characters, and two, build the suspense of what's happening and what the true nature of this story is. So the next day, Michael took Nicole to her methadone treatment, leaving Beth behind again. Lucas appears again with a bouquet of yellow roses and asks her to tour the house. Her and Lucas share an intimate moment in her childhood room. And then Beth realized her feelings for him never disappeared. So they hook up. It's very much off-page hookup. So PG-13.
Closed door. Yep.
Beth is determined to give Lucas the truth, though. Like, after this, she's like, I got to tell him. And she shows him the tape, realizing the ending was cleared. And Lucas is like pissed. He's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, is this some joke?
What are you talking about?
Like,
because she prefaces, I have this video of your sister. I know what happened to her. Like, puts the video in, hits play,
and it's just like
there's nothing.
Nothing. It's just, guys.
Furious. Because now he just slept with her, and she's like, you're gonna tell me this now, and then also you have nothing. Like, what, are you sadistic? Like, what's wrong with you? Why? Who does this kind of thing? Like, who relives their sisters? And then you're my neighbor. Like, he just can't deal with this. This is like
too much to process.
Yeah, he's having a hard time. Yeah, he's out. He's like, I'm out of here. I can't deal with this.
Beth is just, like, completely distraught because she's like, I just got Lucas back. It's gonna be okay. And then he just said, like, fuck off, essentially. Like, get away, stay away from me. And she just, anger and sorrow rips through her. And then Michael and Nicole get home to see Beth, like, burning things in a garbage. She's just like lighting everything on fire, saying fuck this. Michael's like, oh great, I thought we were organizing this so we could keep some of this shit, but I guess we're just gonna burn it all. It's like, okay, thanks Michael for that insight. But then there's an argument which ends in Michael ultimately storming off, and it's just a hot mess of a scene. And then we have another Laura flashback to the night Charles disappeared, and Brian tells what happened, how Eddie killed Charles for supposedly killing his daughter. They went to the boar's nest drunk and followed him home, and Eddie strangles him to death. And this is where we find out why Eddie ended up committing suicide a few months after this. So Brian got Eddie cleaned up and disposed of the body. Laura pushes for the truth of what happened when Emma disappears, and he finally tells her everything after this moment.
Yes.
Which we don't know. It just ends in, he finally tells me everything, and we don't know everything really until the very end of the book. So when I read that, I'm like, I want to know. Where's my knowledge?
Yeah. And so this whole time you're still trying to piece things together. at a certain point, and it's because of Laura, was leaning towards Michael, because remember I had text you and I was like, I know Michael is involved. I just don't know how yet.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't pieced together what it is. And it was because I read one of Laura's POV chapters, and she made a comment talking about how, you know, they might be one of your own, but you may not know them as well as you think, type of comment. And it was like very brief. It was like one sentence.
Right.
And I thought to myself, who says that about their children? It's either her spouse or her children. And I immediately just was drawn to Michael. He was the only one to me that just didn't have enough character development that added up just yet.
Right.
And so I just stuck to that without any, but I still went on a wild goose chase. I still was like, maybe it's Nicole. Because remember I texted you after that. I was like, maybe it's Nicole. Like but my first initial thought was him. I ended up being correct, but I definitely went like around on a roller coaster before I actually finally get there. So the truth revealed. So no, unfortunately, Nicole opens this letter that she thinks is from her mother.
Oh, this was so sad.
And it's she's shaking. I know. And it says, "You're not the child I wanted, but you're the one I deserved. Regretfully, your mother."
Just
and she's like devastated, of
gut
course, by this.
wrenching.
Absolutely. So then Beth is now determined to find Emma's body, because she's like, I fucking saw that tape. I know what I saw. And she wants to prove to Lucas that she wasn't lying about what happened.
Your girl gets a shovel.
She's like, yeah, she gets a shovel. And she's like, I know this body has to be here, because where else would it be? So she starts over by the riverbank, and she's just following this fence in the thick of their woods of their property. And she hears this bell ring and starts to walk towards their pet cemetery. And there are 6 graves for the 3 pets she recognized. But then she's like, I don't know who these 3
Who's
pets
Butterfly
are.
and Garfield? And who are these?
Yes.
No.
Yeah. What are these names?
Oh.
So she starts to dig. And of course, she starts to find human remains. And at this point, we switch over to Nicole's perspective, which is this very fast like cut between how they're figuring this out, point of view perspective. At this point, Nicole is like distraught over what she just read and is just emotionally a wreck. And she's like, I want to know what's in this lockbox. And so she steals Beth's lockbox and heads to the bank, the key, and heads to the bank. And she basically manipulates the teller into thinking it's her, because she's like, I don't have my ID. I don't have my ID. And she's like distraught. Her mother passed, whatever. And the teller's like, don't tell anyone. All right, if anyone asks, you show me your ID, right?
And she's hoping it's money. Like what she's hoping is money, because she like really wants. She doesn't have anything, and she's hoping it's like money,
yeah,
jewels,
she wants a way
something.
Out. She's like, this shitty car. What am I going to do with this? Yeah,
especially to like, because she's really feeling at this point in time like I need drugs. Like she's really feeling it, and it's really hard for her at this point.
Yeah, she's like about to relapse, especially because of this note. She's really not in a good place, which works very well to Michael's favor. But so there's a sealed manila folder titled "The Truth." Inside are these papers, a receipt for a $5,000 money order, some torn clothing, a mood ring, and a first place blue ribbon. And there's a letter that reads, I've taken these secrets to the grave, but that's as far as I can take them. And they're signed Laura Thomas. She reads everything. And immediately Nicole drives back home. On her way home, she calls 911 and she's like, there are 3 bodies. I need the police to come. So at the same time, Beth is uncovering the 3 bodies in the backyard. So she's shoveling and she realizes that Butterfly is Emma Harper, and that's her grave. She doesn't realize just yet that Garfield is Charles Gallagher's grave. She does realize that Goofy, because of the wedding band, is her father's grave. And this is where we find out that Brian actually died. He did not run away from the family.
And this is where Beth is like recalling her dying words as a person approaches. And this is when Lucas, of course, comes behind. So as soon as like I read that, I'm like, I fucking knew it. It was Lucas.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I heard screaming. I ran over. But it wasn't Lucas, because Beth shows Lucas Emma's remains and her father's, and he's just like in disbelief. And Beth confirms what she told him before. Like, listen, I told you. My parents had something to do with this. I don't know what. Like, I don't think they killed her, but they had something to do with her disappearance. And
And it
he's
clicks.
yeah, he's like, did your parents kill Emma? And she's like, I don't know who killed him. And then she clicks, like, wait, I fucking knew it.
Hmm.
And then Michael comes up and hits him behind over with the shovel. And he's like, you should have just left
Yeah,
the past in the past, Beth. I was like, oh, Michael. I should have fucking
I
known it was
knew it.
Michael. I know you
Of
knew it, but I was
course.
stuck on
Michael.
Lucas because it's always the boyfriend or some sort of love. Like for whatever reason, I was like in my head, I was like, Lucas knew that somehow discovered that Brian had something to do with the disappearance and he's been trying to figure out how this entire time and that's why he moved back. Like that's why what I had in
Hmm.
my head. Completely delusional and I made that up, but yeah. And then
Delusion.
so Michael keeps a gun pointed at Beth. She's trying to explain how he's like or he's trying to explain how he's like not a murderer and I'm the victim here and Emma's death was an accident. They were
Hmm.
just playing by the creek and he like scared her. She fell off the bridge and hit her head and covered her body with brush. He told their dad that night after everyone got back from searching for Emma. So first of all, you went searching for Emma and it's just searching for Emma, knowing that you killed the girl, but whatever. And he cried and said he would take care of it. And, you know, he's trying to paint himself as like kind of like I was a child, I'm the victim here. Michael
Right.
claims he didn't know what happened to their dad or who's in the third grade. So, which lie, but also not knowing Charles Gallagher was in the other graves probably accurate, but obviously he knows what happened to their dad. When Beth pressed
Hmm.
again, he says 7 years ago he returned home from grieving the death of his girlfriend, and their dad believed he killed her and had regretted protecting him. Which I'm also like, did he? We never really know what happened with the girlfriend situation, which I hope
No,
after
we
this there
don't.
was you know, investigation into that, but we never figure out what happens to her.
We don't.
From his perspective, they had an argument and then she had like a freak accident.
She winds up dead.
Yep. And then he goes to his parents because that's what a kid does, goes to his parents after a girlfriend dies.
Trauma.
And Michael and Brian have an argument and he ended up choking Michael and Michael killed him in self-defense with one of his trophies. So he's like, it was self-defense.
Supposedly.
Their mom, and trying to turn it on mom too. Mom helped me
Hmm.
bury his body. So she had something to do with this too. So he's unreliable, obviously, at this point. He admits to sending the email
Yeah.
from dad and erased the tape, tore out the pages from the mom's journal, as well as switching his letter with Nicole's, which is like heartbreaking for Nicole. Michael
Horrible.
Michael tells Beth she should have taken the money and sold him the house so he could have kept this he could keep the place and she could leave it all behind. But now she's never going to leave. At that point, I'm like,
Because he's
no.
going to kill her.
Yep,
Yeah.
there's gonna be another grave down there with mittens or whatever. Beth threw
Or
her
whatever he comes up with.
Beth throws her shoe at him to distract him, and they fought over the gun. And this is when like Nicole comes in, and all three are fighting over the
Yeah.
gun.
She's like running in.
Hmm. And the scene is so fast because they're just fighting,
It is.
and the sirens are roaring in the distance, and then all of a sudden there's a gunshot, and then that's it. That chapter
Right.
ends, and then we just
Yeah.
have
And you're like, you don't know what happens.
right,
Cliffhanger.
right. Beth and Nicole end up making out alive, while Michael was taken to the hospital due to the gunshot wound to the stomach. Nicole and Beth hug each other, realizing their love for each other, goes deeper. And Beth gives Nicole her actual letter from their mother. And Nicole gives Beth the manila folder with the truth inside. So this is kind of like how they wrap
The
out.
way I was like cheering that Michael got a stomach wound because I was like, that's brutal.
That's hard to come.
Love it.
There's so many organs there. It's hard to come back from.
Oh, yeah. It's extremely painful too. Yeah. So the letter recounts the entire events of 1999. And as parents, Laura and Brian are, in their mind, protecting their children. And there's a comment about Laura that she had made talking about monsters towards the beginning of the book too. And like, you don't know who they're going to be type of thing. She had made that mention, but I didn't really like piece it fully together other than her just referring to the fact that she knew what happened, which we already knew that she knew, but we just didn't know the details of it. So one of them, her children, is the monster. The letter tells of Charles's murder by Eddie's hands. This is where everything kind of culminates. It cleaned up the mess because it was their fault that Charles was dead and that Eddie turned out to be a murderer because he really wasn't. It just was an act of passion because he thought that this man killed his daughter.
Mhm.
So Emma's death was not an accident, like Michael had said, and ends up learning the truth from Christy Roberts. So this whole time we're thinking Christy Roberts is in one of the graves, the 3 graves, not Brian, but because we thought he was missing. But Christy Roberts did not end up in a grave. She was the one that was bribed with $5,000 because she had taken photos of the event where Emma is on the bridge and splashing water, and Michael shoved her right off, and she took enough pictures to understand that this is what happened and that he literally dragged her, likely still alive, and hit her under the bridge, covering her with vegetation. So like very clearly it was over 50 photos that captured this. So it wasn't like 1 or 2, it was a lot.
Imagine
and so she gets paid.
Brian and flipping he said it was like a flip book. Like imagine watching that, literally like watching your son murder
Your
someone
kid?
and splash water on the wound so
Yeah.
it's like steeped into the dirt and everything. Oh, awful.
Yeah. And that's your kid
Hmm.
too, on top of that. Like he's not grown, he's a child
Yeah.
himself. So Brian ends up paying $5,000 for the photos to help Christy start a new life because Christy's life with her family is terrible.
Okay.
She doesn't get along with them. It's not a good life. She's so sheltered at her home that all she wants to do is leave. So she gives them $5,000. Christy leaves, gets a new identity, moves on, gets a new name, the whole deal.
As a family, everything.
Brian
Happy ending
helped
for her.
her get that. Yep. Just keep a close eye on Michael. This is why he gets a computer. This is why he gets to these summer camps. And it's basically so to keep him busy so he's not doing anything.
If his hands are busy,
like
he's not murdering
people.
people.
Yeah.
Wild.
So in 2015, Michael had driven to their home after this freak accident with the girlfriend where she dies. And I'm like, okay. Brian, the dad, believes that his son is somehow involved in her death. And because Michael doesn't like say what happened to her and they had an argument, I don't think that's too far-fetched. And so they get into an argument themselves. Father and son get in a heated argument. This ends with Brian choking Michael and Michael supposedly killing in self-defense with a science camp trophy, ironically. Laura just tells Michael, like, this is the last body I'm digging for you. I'm not doing this anymore. And she helps him hide the body and helps set up the whole thing that has Michael driving the truck to Texas. The night before, coincidentally, Brian had written a note that said sorry to Laura for just a spat that they had had. And he had left a note for her just like as a daily, I love you, Laura. Sorry that we had an argument type of thing, and left it on the counter. So she uses this as the note that says like, oh, he left this and this is all I had left, right? And she writes, the last time I saw Michael was the day he left in Brian's truck. I hugged my boy. I told him I loved him, and I told him I never wanted to see him again. Every motherly instinct within me had evaporated. The maternal bond severed forever, which I wanted to talk to you about because that is, your kid just killed your husband.
Yeah.
And he's not your kid anymore. He's
a grown
now.
man. Yeah. So this entire story is essentially about how Laura did everything she thought was right to protect her children.
Right.
To protect Michael, to protect basically everyone in the family, because this is what she thought was the right thing to do. It started with Brian thinking what was the right thing to do, and she followed along, but she kept the secret because she thought it was right. And I don't blame her for cutting him off because there's only so much a heart can take. Obviously, we have little ones, so I would likely say, like, if my daughter ended up in a situation like that, I would like to say I would go to authorities, but I would also probably say, shit, how do we cover this up? Like, in actuality, like, I feel like, I want to do what's best for my kid. Like with Eddie killing Charles, if someone killed my daughter and I knew who it was, I would not let the system take care of it. I would take care of it and figure it out. Because the system often fails. and does not provide justice.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously it
Mm-hmm.
does sometimes, most of the time it does, but there are cases, especially with like certain types of assault, which were not described in this book, but that the system doesn't always prevail. So
Yeah, well, and it provides that morally great question of how far are you willing to go for your kids,
right,
and what is that line,
I don't
and
think I would know the
this book
line.
skates that
Yeah,
question.
I don't think I would know the line until I was presented with a situation. Because I know I
Yeah,
would die for my kid. I would not die for my husband.
yeah.
I would die for my kid. I would likely murder for my kid as well. So that I would
You wouldn't die for your husband?
no, because if no, I wouldn't. And that's not because I don't love him, but like
Okay, then.
if it had to be like if I had to choose between like my kid and my husband, I would choose my kid. And like at
Oh, well,
gunpoint.
that's not what I'm saying, of course.
Yeah. But
I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, I would expect my husband to do the same, to be honest.
yeah.
I would want him to do the
Hmm.
same. I want my kid to live. I always want my kid to live,
Exactly.
even if it's at my own expense.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think that's what this is, right? You want your kid to live even if it's at your own
Yeah.
expense. And so she's thinking, well, I'm I'm the reason this person exists. It's now my responsibility
To
to
clean them
clean
up
up
after.
this
Yep.
mess.
Which is fair. I mean, if you if your child ends up being a monster, or do you take responsibility for that? Like think of like all the parents who have like serial killers as like children, right? Do you take responsibility? Is that nature or is that nurture? Did I have something to do with that? How did that happen?
I definitely don't think helping hide the body helped in this
No,
situation.
no. And
Because here's the thing, like this is like her husband gave her a situation first because she didn't know.
no,
First she thinks it's Brian. She has no idea like what happened to Emma. First she thinks it's Brian. So are you doing this for your husband? Helping him hide a little kid's body?
hmm,
Because that's what she did at first. She didn't know she was protecting her kid
right.
till later. And then once Brian explains it, she's like, oh, I would have done the same thing. And now I understand where he's coming from. And he's like, oh, do you trust me? Like, I'm protecting you by not knowing. Let me tell you something. You better tell me everything
Hmm.
because I ain't helping you with shit.
I will
I'm
decide if
not
I'm
touching
helping
any
you
of that.
with something.
Yes,
No,
correct.
we're not.
Like, I have already now seen something that I want to unsee, and I better figure out exactly what the hell's going on here because you're not getting me to lift no shovels or nothing. I don't know what the hell's going on here, and this is a little girl. Absolutely not. No.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. 1999 or nah. No. And you can make the excuse of, oh, it's 1999. They had different technology then.
No.
It was easier to get away with this type of thing. And yes, technically to a certain point that works for the story. Yeah. It does eliminate certain factors,
They're in a
especially
small
being in such a small
town.
town.
They don't have
you
access to
yeah,
resources.
there's a lot of things that get yeah. There's a lot of things that kind of get made easier to tell this story because of the timeline.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, you have to think to yourself, if your husband comes up to you, no matter the time period, and is like screaming at you that he needs your help and he's like in shock or whatever,
Mhm.
and he has his body with him and it's your neighbor's daughter dead, what do you do? Like, what a question.
That is,
And by
that
the
is
way,
pretty
that's
heavy.
rhetorical.
That
I'm not
is
expecting you to ask that.
that is
But it's
pretty
like
heavy.
that's what she made it. She made a choice.
Yeah.
You know, Laura makes this choice without having the full story and goes, you know, trusts her family at the end of the day. And she had to live with that and not very well.
Mm-mm. It destroyed the family.
So resolution. Let's move to that.
Resolution.
Yeah.
So
oh, absolutely.
that happens 3 years later. Beth, Luke, and Lucas got married basically a year and a half after everything went down. They moved a few towns over and adopted a 3-year-old boy named Jack. And so their little family is complete. Nicole and Beth had helped each other heal from the events of their past. Michael survived as in a jail cell 30 miles from the Grove, which is ironic because he wanted to get out of the city.
Oh, yeah.
And he's now there until 2050.
Permanently.
Yep.
Yep.
Nicole ended up becoming a writer, which is what her mom always wanted her to be and what she always wanted to be, which this is supposed to be the memoir that she ended up writing, which is Home is Where the Bodies Are, which recounts the summer of 1999 and the events 3 years prior. So she hasn't relapsed since. Neither Nicole or Beth hate their brother or parents for the things they've done. If anything, they feel sorry for their brother. for, and especially sorry that they weren't able to protect him either from himself. And it wraps up neatly
Yeah,
in a nice little bow. The villain gets
it does.
his comeuppance. Beth and Nicole end up healing and have kind of a
Hmm.
happy ever after, even though I'm sure they live with plenty of trauma, but they still get their happy ever after.
I have to ask you, did you ever read the book that came out in 2009 called The Dinner
No.
by chance?
Mm.
So this book reminded me a lot of The Dinner. The Dinner is a Dutch based book, and the premise of it is the entire book takes place at this dinner table in a restaurant between two couples. The whole story. And it's about the size of this book too, and it's these two couples talking, trying to figure out how they're going to protect their sons, because this footage, there's ATM footage, like CCTV footage of their sons brutally beating and killing ultimately a homeless man
No.
by the ATM.
Why?
These kids are like not great kids, but these are very affluent parents, and they're at this dinner table, and the whole dinner is centered around this morally great question of how far do we go to protect our sons and our livelihood and everything that we've built that could now be ripped apart by these two POS kids that we have.
Mm-hmm.
What do we do now? And so this book, when the resolution came and it ended up being the parents like doing this for their son, it reminded me of that book a lot.
Okay.
Which I really enjoyed that book. So highly recommend The Dinner if no one has read that one. It's called The Dinner by Herman Koch, and it was really popular in 2009. It was everywhere, but it also is just really interesting idea. They literally don't leave the dinner table other than like go to the bathroom or whatever. Like the whole thing takes place at this dinner table. The entire
That's a neat
story
concept.
is really cool.
Yeah.
So I recommend that one for sure. The story, the way that this ended reminded me of that, because while the opening of how somebody dies and all this is like, how far are you willing to go to protect your kid? And that's ultimately like the same question here. How far are you willing to go to protect your kid?
Right.
And where's that line? Where's the moral grayness of that?
I don't think we ever know until we're presented with the situation of what we're going to do. You can
No.
theorize what's
I
proper,
have
what's
some
good,
ideas.
and honestly, it probably
Some
depends on
ideas of
what happens, what the situation is.
Yeah, and situational.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And is do you need to protect your kid from someone else, or is your kid the one needing protecting? I think those are two really different questions too, because in The Dinner and in this book, the parents now have to protect the rest of the world from their violent child.
Mm-hmm.
And how are you going to do that now?
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting take. Now it is time for our mystery Q&A. These questions have not been shared with either of us prior to asking. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
You go first.
Oh,
I'm still thinking my question.
okay. You have to live permanently in a romantasy setting of your choosing or in the real world. What's your choice?
Can it just be fantasy, or does it have to be romantasy?
Oh, could be fantasy.
Okay.
That's fine.
Because like I would, Fourth Wing sounds great, but I probably won't be mounting one of those dragons. So it sounds great in theory. However, I mean, if I would want to live comfortably in like a fantasy world, I'd probably pick Harry Potter. So just as
Okay.
there's magic, there's some cool creatures. I can also have a quiet life, and
It's also this world too.
yeah.
Like it's on Earth.
So it's not
you know.
very far-fetched, and that might seem very vanilla. But if I had to choose, I
It's
would
safe
probably,
is
yeah,
what it is.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's very vanilla. I know myself, and I love reading like, Crescent City. I would not fucking want to live there. It's
Mhm.
so chaotic. No, thank you.
No.
It's beautiful, beautifully chaotic. These demon angel god things.
Mm-hmm.
And then hell is
So no Valaris for you.
no, no. Too many impending dangers, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay.
What about you?
That's fair. I think I like the idea of being in this world, but there being something else to it. And what I mean by that is, so like, I love the idea of no longer being a muggle, right? And living in a magical part of the world that I can't see. And where I was going with this is, when I asked this question randomly to you, is there is a Nora Roberts series, and it's actually based on a teacher who leaves teaching and goes back to her Irish roots and ends up by accident walking through a forest into kind of another Ireland, basically through a portal type thing, but it's still on Earth, but it's not Ireland. They call it a different country, but it's like just a much simpler way of living. There's magic, there's creatures, there's all types of stuff, but they're like on a horse farm, and it's like absolutely beautiful.
Oh, I love that.
I was like, man, that'd be really nice to have like the simplicity of it. It's a really cool cool book. I'm gonna have to look it up.
Okay.
Give me a second while you ask your question.
I feel like we know so much about each other. Okay.
So it's one of Nora Roberts' trilogies, and it's called The Awakening.
Okay. I'm going to have to.
Is the first one.
I always get picky about like books with teachers in them, because especially I don't do mysteries with teachers in them. Like I will probably never read The Teacher by Frida McFadden, just because a lot of times the teachers are painted in like a very like improper way, and that just gives me the ick. So I can't. But it sounds like a good story. So I will.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I liked it. And, you know, there's romance, but it's like, it's definitely more closed door type of stuff. Okay. But Nora Roberts is really, really, I enjoy her books. I think it depends on the person if they would enjoy her, but I tend to really like Nora Roberts'
And sometimes books. You need a closed door.
She has a similar, not only that, but she has like a similar writing style. So she like, all her trilogies and stuff are kind of like the same. You know what you're getting. So it's comfortable. Kind of like Frida McFadden. It's the same type of thing. Like Frida writes all these thrillers. It's the same type of thing with Nora Roberts. Like, you know, once you read her style of writing, you kind of know what you're getting. You know you're getting your happily ever after. You don't know how you're going to get there, but you know you're going to eventually get one. And, you know, you kind of have your tropes of how she writes in her style, and it's comforting. While you're reading a new book of hers, it's still comforting. Just like you watch a new season of a show you already love, you know, you kind of know the comfort elements of the world that she's going to create, and it's enjoyable. So awesome. Yeah, recommend that. That's the first book of that one is Awakening. Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. So when we talk all about traveling, when you go on a trip or a vacation, are you a vacationer or are you a traveler? Meaning, are you the person that has to plan everything and go see all the sites, or are you very much let's just relax. Let's take
Where am I going?
It's up to you.
Okay. On a cruise, I'm doing nothing. Almost nothing.
Fair.
Like if they, they have the little itineraries for those who have not been on a cruise. They give you these
so many
they
seminars.
Used to give you paper, now it's on an app.
There's so many seminars. Now, who's going to a seminar?
I know,
on a cruise.
I don't know. I think a lot of the retired folks are going to learn about jewelry and, you know, making your skin youthful again or whatever. But there's these seminars, but there's also like all these fun
pickleball
games and like shows and all this shit going on. And like, you know, the sexiest man alive walk down the pool deck and like the belly flop contest, and those are all great. Hear me out, they're awesome. They really are great. If you've never been on a cruise, please 10 out of 10 go do all the things. However, I am very fortunate that I have been on a lot of cruises because of where we live. It's only 45 minutes from our house. The cruise is right there. We get Florida resident discounts. We are spoiled by living so close to a major cruise line port. For that reason, because we don't have to fly there and we're super spoiled, you know, once a year or so, we will go on a cruise, which is great. Point being, I have been on these cruises. I've seen the belliest of belly flop contests. I have,
the sexiest of the sexiest
man. I have gone to the Broadway remake show a number of times. I've seen the things, and the things are great. But also the other thing that is great is like doing nothing and sitting by the pool
and not having
nothing,
like,
and just having someone bring me a drink.
What I love is like there's no internet.
The art of nothing. There's no internet. I mean, you have to pay for it like per day,
right? But you're not constantly. You can't like just randomly flip through social media. You have to unplug unless you need. I mean, you use the app to like navigate. And if you're like in a group, you could text people on that. Like if you're on the ship, because the ships are pretty big and it's easy to get lost or lose your people on it.
Oh,
but
yes,
you can
this is true.
unplug
Yep, yep.
and you don't, it doesn't matter if someone
Hmm.
like sends you an email because you can't even answer it. So it's okay.
Yeah. And then the idea of the cruise having everything already on it and it's moving,
Hmm.
like the ease of that, like everything I need, I can get food anytime I want. Anything I need for these days that I'm on this boat is all literally right here in a moving hotel, and I'm still going to a destination.
Hmm.
I like it. I like the idea of not having to plan anything. Once I get on the boat, the ship is going to go where it's going to go. It has this little itinerary. I don't have to do anything else. Now, if I'm flying to another state or I'm flying with my family, there's a whole list of shit that we probably have to do, and it's all planned out and there's like, but cruising, disconnect.
Okay.
That's my answer.
Fair.
You?
I would say the same for cruising. I'm very much, we're going on a cruise coming up, and I'm very much looking forward to disconnecting, unplugging, and just relaxing. We didn't even book an excursion. So, like, I'll enjoy whatever's around. And I feel like I've become less type A with traveling just because I have a kid now. So I don't have, even when we like fly somewhere or go somewhere else, I have like maybe a list of things I would like to do. But if I only get to like my top two or three, I'm totally okay with that because traveling with a kid is a
Yeah.
lot different than just traveling with two adults. You have to plan things depending on the age, planning on their mood and their hunger
You have
level.
concepts of a plan.
Yeah. So I feel like I've gotten very less strict on what my plans are for
Same.
vacationing just because I can't anymore. It's gonna
Yeah.
fail. If I
No,
have a
we get
yeah.
ideas of, yeah, generally
Mhm.
what we want to try to do. Hmm.
All right. So before we wrap up, let's talk about what's coming up next on Book Club After Dark.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but next week we are going to start our Twilight journey by Stephanie Meyer. Twilight.
This is very different
And
though.
with our Twilight journey, oh my God, so different. The way we're going to structure these episodes is pretty cool. It's going to be book coverage, movie coverage, pop culture coverage, interview stuff. We have these episodes really jam packed with a whole bunch of different things. This is not Twilight chapter by chapter.
No.
This is the reboot 20 years ago. I'm in a reread. I haven't read these books since they came out. Michelle.
I'm in a first time read. So I'm coming
Yeah.
it from the perspective of I'm 31 and I'm a millennial. I'm reading these with a fresh set of eyes. And make sure to check the stories for my thoughts on Twilight as I'm going through them.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And so we'll be talking about the movies too and their impact. And yeah, so this is a different spin for us. We wanted to do something different that we've never done before, and we wanted to cover a massive series in a totally different way. And by the way, if you are looking for deep dive coverage of Twilight, there are two podcasts historically, if you go on Spotify or another one of those apps, that you can find deep dive coverage if that's your thing. We just won't be doing that in our coverage because it's been done before. So we're doing something totally different, totally new. Really excited to get into that. And after that, for July, we will have another thriller, which soon to be dropped. The details of what that is, what the next book we're going to cover is. Thriller or maybe something different, maybe a little dark romancy. I don't know. What are we going to do, Michelle? We'll have to see. So we're excited to get into that. We might need a major palate cleanse after Twilight. We're going to have to see how we fare by the end of July. Maybe we might. Yeah. So hit that subscribe button to hear more of our exciting book talk. We are looking forward to dissecting these novels and movies and pop culture and all the things with you.
And don't forget, we want to hear from you. If you have thoughts on Home is Where the Bodies Are or suggestions for future reads, drop a comment below or message us on one of our social media platforms at Book Club After Dark Pod. Show us your fan art, theories, or anything bookish you'd like to share.
You can also visit our website, bookclubafterdark.co, to stay up to date on our cozy content and check out our merch.
That's all for tonight. Sleep tight, night owls. Until next time, happy reading.